Yeah, so we got a grant from the Ohio EPA. It's a $100,000 grant. It's going to allow us to put in 2 additional recycling drop-offs, but more importantly, it's going to allow us to accomplish the objectives of reducing and our goal is to eliminate the contamination. Right now, we're averaging about 30 to 35% contamination. Historically, that rate over the years has been about a 25% contamination rate. Yeah, contamination is when you have anything in one of these recycling bins that is not an acceptable item. So for instance, you're looking right now at this label that we have. It says only paper products, which is newspaper, magazines, phone books, cereal boxes, wrapping paper. Now when you look inside, this is one of the containers that we have. You see somebody put in a plastic bag. You see somebody also put in dirt from their soil, and you see that people put in their potting plants, which is plastic. So in this particular container, we've got we've got good compliance. We don't see any contamination in this bin right now. It's really paper and cardboard products right in here. When you look over here at the commingle bins, the commingle is where we have a high level of contamination. So again, for the paper and cardboard, the contamination I would say would probably be less than 5% overall. When you look at the commingles though, and when we mean commingles, we're talking about plastics 1 through 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Also aluminum and metal cans, glass jars, and bottles. So when you look inside of this, the first time we open it up, you see that there is some contamination. We got the plastic bags, which we do not want the plastic bags in here. Plastic bags are definitely a problem. You also see a Christmas tree. That's going to be a problem. You see some of the food here that is in there, and it's not clean. So we want to make sure that all the recycling is clean and dry. And then you have some crayons in here. They put crayons. Clearly, crayons are recyclable, but they're not recyclable in these bins. And again, you see, look, somebody had put their yard waste in there. The yard waste is totally unacceptable. So how do we handle this? How do we manage this contamination problem? One of the areas to look at, you see the cameras right there. We've got cameras that are up, and so they can help us keep track of the site. Those are actually solar cameras, and they allow us to look at particular sites. When we have contamination, we can go back, we can get a license plate number, and then we have the sheriff's deputy go out to the individual's house, or they contact them at their place of employment, and we put a stop to it. So we're going to be getting a lot more aggressive with the contamination of the recycling, and we want to make sure that people are in compliance, and that means we'll probably restrict what we're collecting to the jugs and the bottles, and we've got to make sure that the plastic bags are no longer put in the paper or the commingles. So the contamination, really what that does is that all of the commingles that we collect, that goes to the Kimball transfer station, and what they do is they have to separate the contamination out. So they have a process where it will separate the plastic bags. It's done manually and also done through machines, and so it's a combination of manual separation through human beings that are actually sorting the material, and then there's also different mechanical aspects that will further separate the recycling. So what we do is we send it through that process, but the higher level the contamination is, the more expensive it is, the more personnel that you have to have, and then the end product isn't as clean of a recyclable that could be sold. Right now over in China, they used to have very low standards. We could send over contamination that had 25–30%. Now those days are done. We can no longer send over contamination that is 25–30%. It has to be less than 0.5%. So less. The commingles are the aluminum, metal cans, glass jars, bottles, and the plastics 1 through 7. Now we're going to open up this container to see what's inside. Now this is totally unacceptable. You see somebody had placed yard waste, leaves, grass, trees. There is no excuse for putting yard waste into a container for plastic, metal, and glass. But these are the type of people that abuse this. They just use it as a trash bin. And that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to refine our message, and we've got to get rid of the contamination because it's just getting out of control. We've had very relaxed standards as far as recycling. We were encouraging high volumes, saying when in doubt, recycle it. Now we're going just the opposite. Yeah, we want to make sure that all the recyclables are clean, that they're empty, and they're dry. Okay? Because if they're not dry, then you start to get liquid that can start contaminating the other recyclables, particularly paper, if it's mixed with paper. So what we want to do is we want to make sure all the recyclables are clean, empty, and dry. And at the same time, you know, when you have a jar with pizza sauce, clean it out. Historically, we were a lot more tolerant because we would send over a lot of contamination. Not just here at the district, but throughout the United States, we were a lot more liberal with unacceptable items. But now the markets have dried up, and if we want to continue to recycle, we've just got to be more specific, and we got to be much more careful with what we're collecting. So we're going to be changing these labels here. We realize that when we start asking for plastics 1 through 7, that a lot of people think anything that remotely resembles plastic is acceptable. So here's we'll look into this bin here. So when we talk about you know, plastic bags, we no longer want plastic bags. Plastic bags are a problem. We don't recycle the plastic bags, and they really jam up the recycling bin. The egg container, that's styrofoam, so that is not something that we accept in our recycle operation. Here's another thing. Look at this one here. People say plastic. So you have a mailbox. Is the mailbox plastic? Yes, but it's not the type of plastic that we recycle in our facility. That's why we try to say, we're going to specifically say jugs and bottles. You see these other containers, these plant containers. It is made out of a plastic material, but it's not the type of plastic that we recycle. So what we've got to do is we've got to refine the message. Well, it's better not to recycle it if it's not going to be clean, empty, or dry. Do not put it in the recycle bin, because you know what we're finding is that people that are die-hard recyclers, they really hate the idea of throwing something out when potentially it could be recycled. But the thing is, you've got to look at it from the perspective of the people that are buying the recyclables. If it's a contaminated load, they're not going to buy it from us. So if they don't buy it from what we collect, we don't have a market, and it has to go into a land.